Brevard News, your home for real news in Brevard County. My name is Kevin Jeffrey, your moderator. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our podcast. And I am joined today by our co-host, District 1 County Commissioner-elect Katie Delaney. Also our co-host, Dale Bailey, the publisher of the Advocate's Voice Online. This week on our episode of Brevard News, we're going to look at these things. Katie Delaney is going to be sworn in a couple of days, and what a day that's going to be. Andrew Connors withholds information and revelation of key contributions until after the election. The state's attorney's office gives insight into its process. The county sanctuary Bill of Rights, the Titusville City Council meeting, and there's some interesting things that happened at that. And I wanted to give you a quote today from this book, and this is reading, boys and girls, that you might want to read at night. And it's called The Good Old Boys, or Brevard Good Old Boys. And I want to read my quote tonight from this. You've got to read this book. You've got to get this book and read it. It tells you a lot about what's going on in Brevard County. Now, notice this quote out of the book. In the introduction, it says, the Brevard Good Old Boy Network is not limited to boys or politicians. Girls, too, are often key players, partying and rejoicing with the group, which also includes some lawyers, developers, organizations, and even puppets. The prime requirement is to be in a position of power and to use that leverage to benefit the group and ultimately themselves, often at the expense, they say here, of others. I will say of you. There is a cabal in Brevard County. It's been around for a long while. And if you read this book, it really, as you go through some of the titles in the book, it covers some of the very same things we're dealing with today. And that cabal is out of control, and they threaten the freedoms of the good people of this county. And so that brings us to our items for the week. And so, Katie Delaney, you're going to be sworn in a couple of days. And that's going to be an interesting ceremony, Tuesday at 5 o'clock. What are we looking at?
So it'll be at the County Commission Chambers at 5 o'clock on Tuesday, the 19th. And myself and Kim Atkinson and Thad Altman, we're all going to be sworn in to take our new positions. So it'll be a really great day. And I'm inviting everybody, the whole public, everyone's invited. So if you'd like, we'd love to see you there. And it's going to be a great day.
Pack the house, raise the roof, opportunity to really be able to show your support for Katie Delaney, and that's at 5 o'clock at the government building, right?
Yes,
in Vieira. And so that's going to be a monumental day. Now we come to this issue of Andrew Connors. What do we even say here? This guy reports that he had contributions that actually were given to him before the election, but he doesn't reveal it until after the elections. Still, tell me about what's happening with this.
So there is a amended report for October 4th for $7,100 with an additional $6,000. This amended report was filed on November 5th, which is Election Day. And what he did was he withheld imperative information from the voters.
Oh, it was just a mistake, right?
I don't think it was a mistake.
What was the information? If you understand the information, you begin to see that it's not a mistake. He intentionally did this. And so the information was that he would help financial contributions, which you're supposed to make in a quarterly fashion. Is that right? How often do you do this?
As you get closer to the election, it's quicker and quicker.
Okay.
So there was a time where it was, even every week we had to report our contributions.
So this is unusual.
Mm-hmm.
And so the information he withhold, that's not in his report until Election Day, is the fact that he received money from North Carolina Holdings. And this was filed on Election Day. Now tell us about North Carolina Holdings.
It's developers, and it's not just them. I mean, there's a long list here. There's Tranquility Development. There's Rada Fisher, which is associated with the registered Brevard County lobbyist, Robin Fisher. And so there's a long list here. I mean, Carolina Holdings, Sunbelt Holdings, And I believe that this could have changed the course of this election in the city of Titusville had the voters had this information. And a lot of people base their information on where people are taking money in from.
Obviously, he thought so. That's the reason that he withheld the information. Would you not think?
No, I think that's a good assumption to make. I mean, why else would you wait over a month to submit and publicize the money that you took in on your contribution list? And so I think voters have a right to question this. It's shady.
Do the voters have any recourse on this?
That's a good question. I think that there could be ethical complaints filed about this. I think that this election was extremely close. You had a little over 400 voting difference. And so those people that voted for Andrew Connors and were not made aware of this information, they may have a right to there might be a recourse for them. There may be.
So what can the voters do that really want to do something about this? Is there anyone they can call? Is there any kind of procedure they can involve themselves in?
I would look into, first and foremost, ethical complaints, and then I would contact an attorney and ask them if there's anything that they can do about this. This does not seem legal. I have a lot more questions and answers when it comes to the situation, like, did he have any fees, late filing fees? Did he pay those late filing fees? Why is no voter questioning this situation at all? Why he withheld this information from voters? Could this have made a difference for the voters of Titusville if you would have known that he was taking money in?
Not to mention, there's other things with the using of the decal of the Brevard County Democratic Party and other things that he did within the election. It was really, again, this is a train wreck and it's coming right towards you. And we will be reporting on it every step of the way. That brings us to the state's attorney's office also. They responded to an inquiry by Kristen Lorte of Brevard Cares Facebook group, and she inquired as to why the information or why the process was seemingly sped up for Vicki Conklin. And they responded, and some of the things that they said was very interesting about their process. And so he says here that in that process, he said, well, let's get right to the right page. He says that the second reason that they will actually look into an issue is when a law enforcement agency receives an alleged criminal complaint or conducts a complete investigation without an arrest and forwards their finding again to our intake division for review. And so they don't really answer any questions. They believe that that is the justification for why they were able to expedite the situation. In fact, they don't really see it as being expedited. They think that they did the right thing and on a consistent basis. I wonder, and we would have to go through the paperwork to find out how many shoplifters had such a speedy process. Do you think that this is an anomaly, Katie, or you think it's consistent?
I mean, I've never seen the state's attorney's office work this efficiently. And if this is the new quality that we are expected to see, I'm happy to see that. Well,
they said how many cases have they prosecuted in 1 year? I think it was over 9,660 cases.
Right.
Do you think they all work that efficiently?
I mean, we don't have any data to produce that, but we all know how slow the court systems work. And
you're not buying this.
when we have literal sitting officials, public officials who aren't being prosecuted, when we've literally caught them red-handed stealing from our county.
They said that they had actually committed crimes,
Absolutely.
right? So that was, and yet nothing.
Right.
And yet here's a criminal complaint purportedly given, and boy, it's expedited really fast.
Right.
What do you think, Steph? During the election.
I definitely have a lot of questions surrounding the situation. I'm concerned because there's already eroded trust with the local governments here. And is that eroded trust now going to go up to the state attorney's office? Are we looking at a situation where the trust issues are spilling over into the state attorney's office? There's concerns about corruption, to be quite frank with you, here locally. And is that going up to the state attorney's office? Are they involved in this issue? And why is there selective enforcement? What it appears to be when you look at the Tobias situation, when you look at what was the other situation? Lober situation. Why have they not been held accountable? This is the frustration for citizens that have grown up here.
Oh, they probably didn't know about it still.
And there were different situations. I mean, State's Attorney Phil Archer, he refuses, and literally he said this, that he refuses to prosecute sunshine violations. I myself have witnessed sunshine violations. Stell has witnessed sunshine violations.
So why not?
And because then you have to hold everybody accountable. If you start holding some people accountable, you have to hold everyone accountable. And really, they should be holding everyone accountable.
So what gives him the right to decide what laws he's going to enforce and what laws he's not going to enforce?
That's pretty much the definition of corruption.
Right.
I
And
mean,
so if you're not enforcing a law, if you have a law and you don't enforce it, it's like one of my professors used to say, it's just a suggestion.
exactly.
Right? If the law has no teeth, if there's no teeth to the law, the enforcement of it, it's just a suggestion.
And hopefully, we have a new state's attorney, so hopefully we can see better coming out of that office now. And, I really hope that that is the case and that we move forward and hold everybody to the same account.
It doesn't look like the people are being held to the same standard.
Right.
So the political class is getting a pass. You have, again, Tobias and Lober, who committed a crime. They both committed crimes. This is not subjective. This is what the FDLE said,
Right.
but nothing. And here we have someone whom is accused of a crime. Immediately, that case is expedited.
Right.
Lickety split.
Just expedited. They made sure they had a whole press conference surrounding that situation regarding the signage, and there's even people on social media that are a part of this group that's admitting they baited this candidate into doing what she did because they made the lettering so transparent, endorsed by it. It just doesn't look good in our county.
I wish that the chief of police would have these press conferences for things that were really serious that affected more people, like human trafficking that's
Correct.
going on, or gang
Correct.
violence, or shootings, or drug offenses. Where are those press conferences?
As I said, sometimes I feel like I'm in Hazard County with the Dukes of Hazzards.
Right.
That's what we're doing here, and it's just not. It's not good. There's a bill of rights that is the county commissioners are considering, and so in that bill of rights, the question is whether or not Brevard County should be a sanctuary county. What do you guys? What do you think about that?
So the thing that frustrates me a little bit about this is that the process. This was passed under consent agenda to be formulated, and we don't know what it's going to look like, and there hasn't really been public input to it. There hasn't been any of that, and so a lot of people are wondering, what is this thing? And on the surface, it sounds like a great thing. Of course, we want to uphold people's civil liberties and their rights, and we want to be a place known in Brevard County that we're going to protect people's rights. So if that's what this is, that's a great thing.
So what it says here is it's based on a measure adopted by Collier County in 2023. The ordinance establishes that establishes this area as a sanctuary county, meaning the county has the right to be free from actions of the federal government. So it sounds great, right? But Feltner said this, and he's one of the commissioners that's behind it. I think there's a movement in Florida to protect our civil liberties. At the county level, said Brevard County District 4 Commissioner Rob Feltner, a couple of groups and constituents contacted me and asked that I consider the resolution. And so Are there some unintended consequences of this? Um, do we not know? Are there more questions than answers still?
Yeah, and I think there's a great opportunity on November 5th at 6 p.m. at the Space Coast Convention Center,
25th.
or 25th, I'm sorry, November 25th. There's an informational meeting on this, and I think hopefully they'll give us an opportunity to ask those types of questions, because I have a lot more questions than answers on this as well. It's there's a lot of people talking about it online right now, and they're confused about it. And especially in a county where it feels like our constitutional rights have already been violated and eroded, this is an interesting resolution to bring up at this time.
No, this, and one of the things that brings concerns is under the ordinance, it says there are civil penalties. If approved, suspected violators can be fined $500 or be locked up in the county jail for up to 60 days. And that's provided that government officials are violating the rights of the citizens, that this could happen to them. Does that sound like what it's saying?
That's what it sounds like.
It sounds like when, people like Sarah Stokel and Robert Jordan were trying to mask people against their will, that maybe this could hold them account.
Okay, sign me up. If that's what it's saying, sign me up. I'm tired of that kind of nonsense. That brings us on to Titusville, the city council meeting. And so Robert Jordan was reappointed to the hospital board. Was that some shenanigans or what?
I'm very disappointed that this was pushed up. It was early. It was before his term even ended that this got brought to the table and passed.
There couldn't be any anticipation of something, could it? I mean, maybe.
The reason why I'm not too worried about it is luckily these boards are at will. So if certain commissioners decide that changes need to be made on certain boards, they're able to do that, and we'll see how that goes.
But the thing is that it's the intention of it that you're trying to subvert by moving things up. That's the thing that strikes you, right?
Right.
It's the action. And again, it just gets to this corruption. Why would you do this? It's not right. Steph.
Right.
They didn't even give anyone an opportunity to apply for this board or
Right.
to show interest in this board. So how do we move forward? This is a person, and thank you for your service of 20 years on this board. 28 years. Thank you for
Absolutely.
your service. However, maybe it's time for the younger generation to bring some fresh, new, creative ideas, to think outside the box and to help us progress in the new age and where we're at today. And you're not even giving that opportunity for people. It feels like what you're doing is you're just leaving people on your inside circle and appointing yes people to these boards.
Well, it's this. It's the same people over and over and over again. And to put this in perspective, Robert Jordan has been on the hospital board as long as our producer, the year that our producer was born. Think about that. This is how crazy that is. Things quiet on the city manager front. Don't know what happened as to whether he got a raise. Probably did. That's probably why we're not hearing anything. It would be my guess. Would that be your guess?
The thing that's really shocking is that with how much publicity the city of Titusville has gotten and how much people are looking at this city, you would think that the city manager's evaluation would be something that they talk about and go through at the meeting.
Right.
And unfortunately, it wasn't even, it was at the very end of the meeting during city manager report that it was just passed, blown through.
What are they ashamed
And
of as to why they don't bring this out?
Right.
What are you hiding here?
right, another perfect evaluation.
Under your own report too, under his own report. And this is somebody that has been the city manager for a long time. So I see all of these complaints about the city, whether it is the abundance amount of trash lately. People have been talking about, litter issues across the city. Obviously, our sewage issues, that is something that everyone knows about, right? But who has been the lead of your city this entire time, making over $18,000 a month?
How can you, that's Mr. Larice. It reminds me of the days of Coleman Young back in Detroit, and he was the mayor for 20 years. Corrupt city, and they just kept doing the same thing over and over and over. And And you know what they say about that? That's insanity. And so hopefully we will get some progress here in the next couple of years, and we may have to get some outside help to do that. That brings us to my 2 cents. The notion of misinformation and different disinformation are anti-American concepts. These words are the words of a tyrant. They're used to control the discourse in order to put limitation of speech on free men. It was George Washington that said this: if the freedom of speech is taken away, then dumb and silent we may be led like sheep to a slaughter. The real problems with advancing the notion that not all speech is good speech or free speech is the question, who decides? Who decides what speech is good and what speech is not? Who makes that decision? I asked someone that here recently, and crickets. They had no answer, you see. Now notice, if you listen to the tyrants, they believe that it is the expert class that is able to decide, or rather, the educated class, which lately has become the indoctrinated class. The founding fathers believed that the citizens of this country are very capable of filtering through all the speech to determine the truth in any matter. The belief that a free people needs others to tell them what speech to listen to than for them to be able to decide for themselves is not an evasion of free speech, but propaganda. This is not saying that you are embracing free speech. When you say that you have to decide what speech is actually good speech, this is nothing but you're advocating for propaganda. And so Benjamin Franklin said this, and he said it well. Freedom of speech is a principal pillar of a free government. When this support is taken away, the constitution of a free society is dissolved and tyranny is erected on its ruins. This is the hill I'm willing to die on. People have the right to say what they're free to say. And no one, no government, no one has the opportunity or the ability to tell them to shut up. Let the collective people decide what is true and what's not. That's why they call this America. And that's my 2 cents. Thanks for joining us on this episode. We invite you to visit us again next week. And be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our podcast. And you have a wonderful week. And we'll see you next time.